Right now, Vermont Governor Peter Shumlin and the President and CEO of Amtrak are giving an update on yesterday's train derailment in Northfield.
They just finished a meeting requested by the Amtrak chief who arrived in Vermont late last night. Now they're expected to talk about the cleanup and repair effort, as well as anything affecting passengers. Let's listen in.
Hey, welcome. Come on up. Let's introduce ourselves. Starting as far, well, why don't we start over on the left? Take it away.
I'm Mark McKeown, Amtrak Corporate Safety Advocate.
Thanks for being here, Mark.
Charles Hunter, Genesee and Wyoming Railroad.
Brian Gallagher, Amtrak.
Paul O'Mara, Amtrak Division Operations.
Wayne Moore, Amtrak Police.
Dan DeLabriere, Lee Trans Rail Director.
Joe Flynn, Deputy Commissioner of Public Safety.
Chris Cole, Secretary, Vermont Agency of Transportation.
I'm Chris Herrick, Director of Emergency Management and Homeland Security.
I'm Joe Boardman, President and CEO of Amtrak.
It's great to have the team here. Great to have Joe Boardman here, CEO of Amtrak, and we're delighted that you came right up here.
Thank you.
And we appreciate it. We know you're really from across the lake, right, in New
I
York,
am.
so you're really a Vermonter in spirit. I also want
I
to
like the ice cream.
and the ice cream's great.
Yep.
I also want to introduce Sue Allen, just because we're so terribly gender challenged here that we're honored to have Sue here as well. Listen, to give you the update, we're delighted to have Joe Boardman here from Amtrak and the Amtrak team. Here's the good news. Everybody that was injured, the 7 folks that were injured, have been released from the hospital. As you probably know, the conductor was our biggest concern. He was taken to Dartmouth Hitchcock Hospital by DART helicopter. He has been released, and we're grateful that he's back at home. He did incur some concussion, bruises, bumps, but he too will fully recover. So we're delighted that there were no loss of life, no more serious injuries. The cleanup process will begin shortly. This is foliage season. The Vermonter is a great train. Amtrak's a great partner, and we want folks to know that the train's still running. In other words, you will take the train if you're coming from the south to Springfield, Massachusetts, at which point you'll be divided up on buses and delivered to the destination that you originally thought you were headed to. If you're heading north, a bus will pick you up and deliver you to Springfield, Mass., where you'll go on your journey. We're going to be the Transportation Safety Board, what do you call them, Joe?
NTSB.
NTSB is on site right now, obviously confirming exactly what caused the challenges. There's no reason to believe that anything that we said yesterday is not accurate. It was created by, we believe, though Joe can't talk about this, but I can, we believe that obviously the freak incident of ledge falling on the track led to the challenge that we're facing. It doesn't appear to be a situation of a conductor driving too fast or not doing anything improper, and it was really a situation where the ledge fell on the track. Having said that, we're going to get the Amtrak Vermonter back up and running as quick as we possibly can. We expect that cranes and other equipment will be in there moving the cars. They'll take them down to a siding in Roxbury, Vermont. We will bring on new cars, fix the track, and our hope is to have the Vermonter back up and running in days, not weeks. Obviously, we don't know what unanticipated challenge we may face, but we're really pushing hard to get the train back up and running as quickly as we possibly can. I'm grateful to all the emergency responders, to all the folks who worked so hard, to the community in Northfield, to all those Vermonters who came together and helped out in a really difficult situation. The passengers have all gotten on to where they were headed, and it has had the best possible outcome that it can. So thank you, Vermonters, for all your help, and I want to turn it over now to the CEO and the President of Amtrak, Joe Boardman. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Governor.
Take it away.
I guess the first people that I want to thank is the Governor, Joe Flynn, Chris, their staff, helping Amtrak and the New England Central Railroad in our time of need. The community, the farmer, Darn Good Socks Company came in and helped our darn tough socks.
They are darn good.
Oh,
yeah,
I thought they were, okay, they're darn good.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have all the local,
That's like saying Ben and Sherry. So
yeah. So I'm really right on board now here with the right things, but we were helped by the first responders, the Northfield Police Department, the community just outpoured for us, and we really thank them for that. We are very happy that we don't have any major injuries at the railroad, and our folks and those who rode the trains. So we're pleased to be here. I'm pleased to be here in Vermont. It's a time that I wish was a little better for me personally, but I'm always happy to come over to Vermont and have the ice cream. So that's it.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Appreciate your being here. We'd be happy to take questions. I just want you to know, I asked Joe how he got here. He got here by rail.
I did.
So
There's
that's
all
it.
the discussion about the ledge just falling and kind of being an act of God type of thing. I mean, on the interstates, there was so much effort over the number of years to cut the ledge back so it wouldn't fall into the roads. Has anything like that been considered or undertaken on the rail?
Well, let me just first correct the presumption. With all the work that we've done, all the money we've invested in federal highway safety, going in and trying to be proactive about falling ledge, it still falls. And I only need to take you to the hill going up into Burlington there, French's Hill. We had a big ledge slide there less than a year ago, and it was potentially very dangerous. We got lucky. So the point is, the nature of ledge is it cracks, it moves, it slides, whether it's on a highway or a rail bed. Obviously, both Amtrak, myself, the feds are concerned about ensuring that ledge doesn't fall on railroad tracks, and that's why the Transportation Board is in there looking at the challenges and making sure that we're doing everything we can to keep our rail lines safe when it comes to ledge.
Who picks up the tab for not only the emergency response but the cleanup effort?
Well,
It's a combination. It's Amtrak is responsible for most, if not all, those costs.
Any indication of what we're looking at in terms of cost for this yet?
No. Can I add
Yeah.
something to the
Yeah.
last question? Is that one of the really good things about working with the NTSB, and I've done that for a while now, is they'll come in with recommendations, and that could include something that prevents or tries to prevent. As I think, as the governor says, you can't completely prevent those kinds of things, but they'll make recommendations once they find out or confirm the reasons for this derailment of something that will help.
Mr. Boardman, given how violent a collision this must have been, and when you heard that phone call that this had happened, were even you surprised that there wasn't a greater human toll here?
Not surprised, very blessed and thankful that there wasn't.
Do you have trouble with rock ledges in other states around the country?
Well, everybody has problems with rocks, whether it's on the highway or whether it's in railroads. And so they haven't decided, at least the last I knew, that they would bring a geologist along for this particular investigation, but they have access and staffing of a geologist to take a look at that.
Yeah, in other words, the short answer is there's no reason to believe that Vermont's ledges are looser than other ledges around the country.
Well, perhaps this could be a lesson that could be applied in other parts of the country.
All of
Could
them
well
are.
be.
Yeah, C.B. Hall from Passenger Train Journal. There was out in Washington State an appropriation for the ARA funds. I think it was $16 million to work on the mudslides just north of Seattle mostly. I mean, is there a chance that sort of federal appropriation would be considered appropriate, would be appropriated for a place like Vermont where you've got a lot of shale formations, for example? Is that
Well, I would say that we have mudslides on the West Coast, and Amtrak is the national coast-to-coast, border-to-border supplier service every year. And so there's a much bigger problem in the West Coast than there is up here. This is not something that's a regular occurrence here at all, which I think you're all well aware of. So it's very different. And I think as NTSB really does make recommendations, we'll take a look at what they really say.
Have you received a description from the conductor yet as to what he witnessed shortly before the crash?
So I just want to caution you that because the federal folks, transportation folks, are in doing a full investigation, we can't comment on the details of this accident until they've completed their work. So the answer is we cannot comment. We're going to let the federal transportation folks do their work.
When I think of the term, as you describe the conductor, my impression is he's the guy who goes up and down the aisle and takes the tickets. Is that who you mean, or the engineer, the guy who was in the front driving the train?
Well, to answer that question in this particular case, my understanding is that this conductor was in the cab with the engineer. We had another conductor in the body of the train itself. I just didn't want to.
Sorry, go ahead.
So the answer to that again is that this conductor was in the head end of the train, which they have to do on a regular basis to qualify themselves for the physical characteristics of the railroad, and he was actually an assistant conductor, and so he was up with the engineer in this particular case.
Can you describe, Mr. Boardman, the cleanup effort now? What is involved?
So we already have equipment there ready to, I just talked a few minutes ago to those at the site, and we are ready to begin to re-rail the equipment that's there. As the governor said, it'll be moved to Roxbury. And so we've had to build a roadway to get up in there. The landowners around there have been very cooperative to us, and so we will begin moving as quickly as possible to get service back on the tracks.
So the feds need to complete their work before the equipment can be removed, right?
They've given permission for the equipment to be
They're all
moved,
good. Great.
as I understand.
Okay.
Is that an Amtrak crane that's up there or an NECR crane that's up there working?
The train I came in on was an Amtrak train.
Well, excuse me.
But New England Central will bring a locomotive up to help as well.
Okay, but the salvage operation, putting
The salvage operation's being
another NECR.
Yeah, but it's a contracting company, a rigging company that's up there.
They contract with a company to do it.
And how long do you think it'll be before you have that line back open?
Well, we don't have a real estimate at that because we don't know the situation we're going to really face bringing them up out of the kind of the embankment that's really there. But we expect it's a matter of days and maybe a week, but we don't think it's quite that long.
So there's no structural damage to the track itself?
Yes, there is. The rail bed itself was damaged, but the Amtrak team and the rail team are working very hard to get that track. As soon as they remove the cars, they'll get that track replaced.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We have very good partners with the New England Central, and we expect that they'll move on that very quickly.
Do you have a sense of how great the diesel spill was? We heard an estimate yesterday that it might have been about 4,800 gallons. Do you have any estimate on that amount, or how far it might have gotten before it had been contained?
I do not.
Mr. Steve, anything on that? No. We don't.
Can you comment on, there was a report this morning about the safety record and the number of incidents along this line. Can you comment about that, whether it's anomalous in some way or a concern of yours?
Well, no, it's not a concern. I think that we have a very good safety record with New England Central. I think that Genesee, Wyoming, and New England Central are some of the best railroads we actually work with, and so I think that any insinuation of anything different is wrong.
Should passengers expect delays as they get picked up via bus instead of train?
Not necessarily. I mean, it depends upon the number of passengers on a train, but one thing that Amtrak tries to do is break down the buses, so if you're heading to St. Albans, you'll be on a bus that makes maybe 1 or 2 stops heading for St. Albans. If you're heading part south, they'll put folks on that bus point south, so you may well find that the travel time is very, very similar, maybe even shorter. But I want to emphasize, our goal is to get the Vermonter back up and running preferably this weekend, if not shortly thereafter. But we don't think this is a question of weeks and weeks. This is a question of days.
So today's initial delay is anomalous?
Well, we're not delaying today. They've got the authority from the feds to go in and start, and they're going to start hauling those cars out of there.
the bus pickups.
Oh, was it late today?
It was in Montpelier.
Bus was late.
It's a minimal delay today, but we'll get it. We'll make sure that in time tomorrow. How's that?
If people
Wow, you were down there at the station looking for the bus.
Ran a little late to this because of it, yeah.
Wow. They're good.
This is a question for Charles Hunter, who's probably the best person to answer. I have conflicting information as to the speed limit at that precise point. I've heard 50 miles an hour, I've heard 59 miles an hour.
I would argue that that's not something that anybody should answer at this point in time because of the NTSB. I know you've directed it over there, but I'm just stepping into that, I guess.
Well, why would a speed limit be anything that's subject to the investigation? I mean,
Because they'll want to know what speed the train was operating at.
But how would that change the facts on the ground here? I mean, it's a point on the railway line. Why is a speed limit something that can't be disclosed?
They may or may not have been going that speed, and the NTSB would want to know what that information is. At least, maybe I didn't hear the question.
They were just asking what the speed limit is. I said yesterday it's 59, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the speed limit's 59.
And didn't you say yesterday that it was going about that speed?
There was no reason to believe that it was exceeding the speed. And that was based upon the passengers I spoke to, who literally came up to me in their shock and said, just want you to know, Governor, the conductor and the engineer were doing everything right. They were traveling at the right rate of speed. They hit the brakes. They tried everything they could. And as passengers, we have absolutely no complaints. In fact, we're grateful to them for being so helpful during this crisis. So all my information is purely from the passengers on the train who said, you know, if they felt like it was going too fast, they would have been saying, listen, you know, that they were traveling at dangerous speeds. 4 or 5 just volunteered to me. They were doing everything right. It was just a freak of nature. The ledge fell onto the track. He hit the brakes. Now, you know, the feds will figure this out, but assuming that the passengers knew what was going on, which I suspect they do, I bet we won't find that there's any great hidden negligence here.
Is there any technology coming down the tracks, excuse the pun, that would allow detection of this kind of a rock fall in time to safely stop the train, like some sort of forward-looking radar or some sort of detection system that detects vibration on the tracks?
We have in other places along the railroad what we call slide fences. If there's actually, and you see them along the highways as well, where if you have a regular place that you're having difficulty, it'll come down, hit the slide fence.
That's a physical barrier you're talking about.
No, let me finish it. It also then provides into the communication and signal system an alert. Whether it would work here or not is unclear. I don't know.
So something strikes the fence and it sends a signal to the train or to some control center?
To the control center.
Okay.
Is there any role for PTC in a place like that? There's a PTC exemption on that line. Is that something that's going to come under review, you think, since...
It's doubtful in my mind, but we'll have to, again, wait and see what the NTSB says.
If people bought a ticket this week thinking they were riding a train and they don't want to ride a bus, can they get their money back?
I would think they would, yes.
But they'll get a train for a lot of the ride if you're heading to New York.
Can anybody talk about the environmental issue with that?
Does anyone know anything about how much diesel went in the brook?
I don't think we have the facts at this point in time on that. We will have them, but we don't.
Diesel did go in first.
Yes.
That's our belief.
At DEC, are they on site?
I think everybody's on site. I think DEC's on site. I think the feds are on site, is my understanding.
How much fuel would a fully loaded train have?
In that particular one, Brian, how many gallons?
2,200.
2,200 gallons.
Are you going to allow press to the site today?
That's up to the feds.
Yep.
Your governor has no objection, but the feds have to clear that. I always think you all should go wherever you want to go, and the deeper in the woods you go, the happier I am.
Already got turned away once.
One passenger who I spoke yesterday complained because at 2 o'clock, a good 3.5 hours after the incident, she had not received any kind of information from Amtrak on the passenger notification system that works through, plugging in your reservation number, I suppose. 3.5 hours seemed a long time, but the state had done an awful lot. I mean, the governor had given his press conference by that. Is that something that you feel you need to give attention to sort of...
Where was she?
She was at the Plumley Armory in Northfield when I spoke with her, and she had been on the train, obviously, so traveled from Massachusetts.
I know we were having some difficulty with the digital part of the delivery of anything around the site. We could use our cell phones from a voice standpoint, and if that's the way the information is coming in to her, it might not have worked.
So you're having trouble getting information electronically from the site.
It was like 1X on my cell phone. I know I couldn't do the normal texting that I normally do.
Okay, so you're saying that whoever was at the site would have had problems getting information to you.
That's why I asked where she was.
Yeah, she was in Northfield where there's good cell phone access. And I understand you to mean that you are trying to get information from the site itself, from the site of the crack-up out in the woods. And
Well, no, I meant that it would come from our central system in, and if it worked for her, I would say, if it didn't work for her, I would say it may have been her cell phone itself at Northfield.
Okay.
I did not get that ability at Northfield to be able to do that this morning. I couldn't get the data.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the slide fences? Do you know, are those in use anywhere in Vermont?
I do not know that.
But
they're used in New York.
Parts of the country for this specific thing. If something falls, it will send a signal to come.
It can,
look.
yes.
Okay.
And they are used in New York?
Yes.
I mean, the Adirondack, I mean, just in New
Yes.
York or far distant New York? Okay.
Because it seems in my memory, that stretch of track between roughly Northfield and Granville maybe, it has been troublesome in the past.
And that was Governor Peter Shumlin along with Joe Boardman. He's the president and CEO of Amtrak, giving a follow-up press conference regarding the latest in the train derailment. And we've learned today, I think the big news was that all 7 victims who had to be taken to the hospital, including the conductor who had to be airlifted to Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, they've all been released. They're all okay and walking away with only really minor injuries in what could have been a devastating train accident. Right now, we do know that there are crews there about to begin the cleanup.
Right. NTSB is conducting this investigation. They said there are some details that they can't release just yet because it is an open investigation, an ongoing investigation. So we'll have to, wait to see what the NTSB finds, and we'll be learning more days, weeks.
Right, exactly. And they said that also another big point that they hammered here is that days, not weeks, is what they expect to have the rail up and running. This is peak foliage season now. They don't want that the Vermonter rail down and out for too long. But for the time being, all service will, the trains will stop in Springfield, Mass., take buses to where you have to go north of that.
Right.
And we'll, of course, keep you updated on everything train derailment, our past coverage from this point on online at WPTZ.com, and then again tonight starting at 5. Till then, thank you very much.